It's time for me to make some changes down here in this fish room. I've got a couple of aquariums that I don't love, so we're gonna make some changes and I'm gonna bring you guys along for that journey. Journey? Whatever. Hey fish friends, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Zenzo from Tazawa Tanks. Hey, I'm actually wearing a tank top and that wasn't even planned. It's super warm outside and yeah, if you want to get one of these, you can link below, they're there. Anyway, down here in the fish room, I've got some aquariums. Obviously, I've got some aquariums. Got a lot of aquariums down here, but there's a couple down here that I don't really enjoy. One of those is my Briscardi tank. It's like I forgot the volume. It's like 37 to 40 gallons. And I've got my gold Oscillators tank. Now, I love both of those fish, so don't feel like I'm getting rid of those fish. I am getting rid of the Briscardi, but I still have more Briscardi upstairs. So upstairs, I've got a 60-gallon Briscardi and multi-fasciatus tank. They're staying there, but the ones that are down here are like extras that bred. So they're like the grown-up adults from the fish that bred upstairs. So I don't love this tank. They're super aggressive down here. I'm just not happy with it. It looks terrible, so we're gonna change that. I'm gonna catch those fish, put them in a empty 20-gallon quarantine tank, and take those to the store to sell, which I'll do in the next couple of days. But for now, I'm just gonna take them out and move them. And then my gold Oscillators, which I love those fish, and I've made videos about them before, and I very much enjoy them. But they are in a 20 tall, which is okay, and I've had them for a couple of years. But I just feel like it's a little bit too cramped for them, especially like there's one dominant male that's kind of like controlling the tank, and I feel like if I put them in a larger aquarium, I can put some rocks and some space in between the kind of the shell areas, and maybe have better breeding activity and just overall better experience for the fish and for me. So we're going to be moving the gold Oscillators into that tank, moving these fish out, and there's a couple other things moving around. So a couple reasons why. One, I don't love it, and because this is like my enjoyment room. That sounds weird. I just enjoy being down this room, and I want to enjoy all of the fish that are down here and the tanks. And if I have something that's an eyesore to me, I want to make a change. So that's what's going on. The other reason is it's about time for me to do a full fish room tour again of this fish room and all the other aquariums in the house. And I want to have them set up the way I want them to be before I make that video. So that's why we're doing it, and I'm gonna just grab some cameras and take you along. So let me actually show you what I mean by grab some cameras. So let me just take out my camera phone here, and here we'll film me filming you. So this is the camera I'm on right now. I've got this camera, which we will be taking like time lapse, because you know it's gonna take me a long time to do this. And then I've got my other camera here, so I can just grab it and like go around the different tanks as I'm moving around, as I'll be far away from this one here. All right, so I think the first thing that I should do is start with the tank that we need to tear down and catch the fish out, which is this one here. First thing I'll do is start draining out some water, catch out the duckweed, take out all the decorations. I probably should grab a bucket and a ladder and catch the fish. So yeah, we'll start with that first, and then yeah, we'll just tackle this one tank at a time. A couple of tips when you're trying to catch fish out of an aquarium. The first thing that you want to do is remove as much of the decorations and the filtration as possible. So I took out all the rocks out of this tank, and all that's left in there now is a sponge filter and the substrate, so I can obviously very easily move the sponge filter around. The other thing that you want to do is you want to lower the water level so that if you're using it, well, you should be using a net, that the fish doesn't have the opportunity to swim over the net, and basically you're not giving the fish as much space to swim away from you. And then the last trick that I have is to use large nets. So here's like a very large net. See me through the net? Anyways, a very large net and another pretty large net. And I like to have one kind of sitting there as like a trap, and then I'll chase the fish with the other net into the larger net, and then I can just scoop them out. So normally, like if I'm like catching fish, I'll put them in a bucket of water, but I'm gonna just carry them straight across to the other tank, so they're only out of the water for like 3 seconds or something like that. Okay, so now we're gonna set up the new tank. So drained it down, drained the water, took out the decorations. Now I'm gonna kind of scape it the way I envision, which means I'm gonna have to pull some shells out of this tank. I've got some extra shells in another tank. And the Briscardi, they're down here. I'll get some B-roll of it later, but they're down here in that tank. It's a bare bottom quarantine tank. It's cycled, ready to go. And I just threw some extra like PVC elbows and pipes in there, some ABS pipes, because they are quite aggressive. And I want to give them some hiding places. So probably what I'll do here a little bit later is also turn the lights off in for that tank so that it's darker. And it'll just help to curb any aggression, and you know, they're all kind of freaked out now anyway. So yeah, the next step is for me to go to this tank. Let's move this over here. Yeah, so the next step is to go to this tank here. This is a 20-gallon gold Oscillators tank right there. Let me just zoom in and see if I can focus on it. So you can see it there. We're going to decorate the other tank first, and then we'll do the whole thing over with these guys. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot of work, but worth it in the end. Okay, so quick update. Was able to catch all the gold Oscillators in the other tank, and as I was moving stuff around, I figured out that the easiest thing for me to do is just make sure that I take all of those shells, these snail shells from that tank, and put them in here, and then I added some additional shells, and I also caught that other gold Oscillators that was down below. So this way, because what happens is with shell dwellers, they like to go inside of the shells. It's kind of like their escape protective little area. They'll spawn in there, they'll raise their fry in there. So oftentimes if they're threatened, they'll go hide inside of a snail shell, and it's almost impossible to get them out. So I just took them all and put all the shells in there and kind of rearranged them. So now I have to refill that tank, and that other one's a mess. I don't know what I'm doing with it yet. I kind of have an idea. We'll talk about that at the end of the video, and clean up in here because it's a mess. Okay, so I just realized that this is probably not as cool of a video as I thought it was going to be, or maybe it will be, I don't know. Just because it was a lot of probably just this time-lapse going on, because I was just working on moving fish around and moving decorations, shells, etc. So quick recap what we did. So we took the Briscardi and out of that tank, we drained that tank down, emptied it all out, put the Briscardi in a quarantine tank. They are now in a quarantine tank, lights are off in there. The other thing that we did is we took the decor and all of the shells actually out of the gold Oscillators tank, the 20-gallon. Put it in here. I started to kind of rescape it the way I wanted. What I did is I ended up building like this big mound of rocks in the middle. And the reason why I did that is, so imagine like a rectangle. You have this, a bunch of like snail shells along the bottom. If this fish can see this fish and they're very aggressive, they will start to like fight and go after each other. So I built a big mound of rocks in the middle so that I could have like a little cluster of shells over here and a little cluster of shells over here. So that way this dominant male won't see this dominant male, and there's some other like smaller subsets of rock outcrops. So there's like enough for maybe 3 or so little territories in this tank, which was much better than what I had over there. And it just gives everyone more space, more water volume, etc. So overall, I'm happy with how it looks. We'll see how it does long term. I'll probably shut the lights off on there as well and just kind of let them chill out for a while, because it's, a lot of excitement. And when you are worried about aggression or moving fish around, turning the lights off really does help. The other thing that I did is down below underneath, there's another 20-gallon tank that originally I was going to do like some shell dwellers in there. Ended up, what did I do with those? I sent some to Dean actually, or gave some to Dean. There was one gold Oscillators fry that I never caught from before, and it grew up in that tank. So I took him or her out, put it in that, the new tank, the new gold Oscillators tank. Took all those shells, put that in the new tank. And then some of those actually put in the old 20-gallon over there. So right now that tank is empty. There's nothing in there except for some empty snail shells, a sponge filter, substrate, and a rock. I'm not 100% sure what I want to do with that tank yet, but I do have some ideas. I've actually had my eye out on a little bit more, or quite a bit more rare Tanganyikan fish that would do well in that tank, so I might set that up for them. And then eventually we're gonna have another 20-gallon tank available once I get rid of these peacock fry that are growing out. So we potentially have 2 empty 20-gallon tanks, plus I have my planted 16-gallon tank that I've not put any fish in there except for a couple autosynclists. So I think I'm gonna do some apistogramma in there. So yeah, we've got some more tanks to play with, so I'm excited about that. And yeah, that's that. So I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna link a video right up here of the gold ocellatus, so you can kind of see what these species are like and learn a little bit about them. So if you are interested in this very beautiful, fun shell dweller, you can learn about them there. Okay, so it's the next day. Things have settled down in there. I actually am very happy to see that they've kind of done what I wanted them to do, which is kind of create their own little spot in the tank. So obviously a lot more space for them to be spread out, to have their own little territories. They're still going to be fighting. They're aggressive fish. I'm not sure if I mentioned this last night, but actually as I was rearranging things after I put the fish in there and I was moving some things around, I felt like this sharp thing on my finger. I'm like, what the heck was that? Well, one of the fish like swam up and bit my finger. It didn't draw blood or anything because it's too small for that, but it still kind of startled me to where whoa, this little guy just hit my finger pretty hard. So they can be a little bit aggressive, but everything is good. I just fed them a little bit of brine shrimp just to kind of see them out and about. Let's walk over here. So another fun thing, I thought that the small ocellatus fry that had grown up in another tank, I thought that I actually caught it and put it in that tank. But when I looked in this tank today, this empty 20-gallon, that's supposed to be empty tank, it's still there. It actually ended up lodging itself in one of the shells that I thought was empty and came into this tank with me. So I walked over here today, looked in this tank, there he is, just sitting there looking at me like, am I gonna feed you? So I'm gonna leave him in there for a while, let him kind of grow out a little bit larger. Then when I put him in that tank, I'll have to do a water change and rearrange things so it doesn't get picked on right away. But I'll let him get bigger in this tank anyway while I'm still thinking about what to do. I'll leave all the shells in a cluster in the middle so that when I am ready to catch him, I'll see what shell he goes into, take that one shell out, put that in the other tank, and deal with all that. So now what I'm gonna do is, moving again, I actually just called one of the fish stores that buys fish for me, and since there's a couple fish that I want to buy, I am going to go there and sell them these fish. So they're going to buy these from me, and I'm going to buy some fish from them. So yes, the Briscardi will be going to a good home. Maybe it'll be one of you. If you live in the San Francisco area and you go to 6th Avenue Aquarium to buy some Briscardi, they might be mine. So there we go. I'm not sure if I mentioned it or not in that video, or in this video, or in another video, but one of those Briscardi had no tail. Now I can't take a fish with no tail to the fish store, and this fish lost its tail due to some aggression, fighting, right? And it's been months with this fish living with literally no tail. I've had fish lose part of a tail and they'll grow it back, but this fish lost its entire tail. And it's still doing just fine. I'm gonna keep him. I'm gonna put him in the other Tanganyikan tank. And that tank has lots of hiding places. Yeah, I just kind of attached this little fish with no tail. So us, got the fish all bagged up. We've got the Briscardi here. If you saw my last video from last week, I guess it would have been, or will be, it was a vlog video, and in that video I showed you how I catch fish and how I put them in these little food containers, which I think is brilliant, but we're just gonna bag them up today. But if you have not watched that video, do me a big favor and go watch that video, because I really do think it's very fun to make. I love the edit, and hopefully you enjoy it too. It's a fun video. So anyway, check that video out, and we'll catch you on the next one.